Hello, Father Murr. Are you there?
I am Dr. Robert Moynihan. How are you doing?
Great. I am in a monastery off the coast of Croatia, next to the Mediterranean Sea, which is right behind me. And I'm in a little convent room here. And just outside is a walkway, and then the sea is right there.
It's beautiful. It looks beautiful.
And this was a Franciscan monastery from about 1390. And they've repainted it here recently.
I would hope so.
Father Murr, it's now June
Yes.
11th, 2025. We're 3 days beyond Pentecost, and we are 53 days beyond Easter. And on the day after Easter, Pope Francis died. There was his funeral a few days later on April 26th. And a few days later, all the cardinals gathered for a papal conclave and unexpectedly for us, elected Cardinal Robert Prevost from both Chicago and many years in Peru to be Leo the 14th. And he's now been Pope for just about 34 days. And I wanted your reaction, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, to the election of Robert Prevost, Pope Leo the 14th, to the See of Peter.
Yes, let me give you that reaction. First of all, and this might sound a little bit negative to say, but it's you asked, so I'm going to tell you my real feelings of it. When it was announced that someone won the election, that a pope had been elected, I breathed a sigh of relief, just relief. It almost didn't matter to me who it was, as long as that we were beginning a new chapter in the church, in our history, that we had finished with 12 years of one pontificate and we were starting anew. I was relieved. I was surprised when I heard that it was Cardinal Robert Prevost, who I don't know personally. You know him personally. I do not. And I was surprised to hear it was him. I don't know what I felt. A lot of things, but joyful, fearful, because I didn't know what the future was going to hold. I mean, fearful in that sense. Hopeful. But when I saw the face of one cardinal from Chicago, I'm not going to give his name, and standing on the balcony, when they were showing Pope Leo the 14th on the loggia when he came out to greet his people. There was one cardinal from Chicago who shall remain nameless, who was grinning, a grin that I did not appreciate, because I don't appreciate his politics or his ecclesiology either. And I thought, oh, my heart sunk at that moment, because I thought this man would be his candidate. Well, he was, in a sense, his candidate, but in another sense, the new pope is his own man, very much his own man. He's not playing anybody for anyone's approval or this and the other. I think he's a very honest person. A couple things that impressed me were this. One of them was that he was a missionary in Peru. I understand that. I was a missionary in Mexico. He also asked to be sent to the most difficult part of the diocese when he got there. And he went there, traveled a lot on horseback, on mule, and worked with a lot of the poor. One thing that very much impressed me was his acceptance by the local clergy. And I don't think a lot of people would understand why that's a big deal, but it is a big deal. Since the mistaken history of the Black Legend. You know what the Black Legend is, Robert? You would know what that is. The legend of Spain being such an evil empire and ruining everyone's life by going to South America and everything else, Mexico and all Central and South America. That Spain was this awful place with an Inquisition and and they ruined everyone's culture. Nothing could be further than the truth. Spain gave to the world the Catholic faith. Spain gave to the world education. Spain took people from the Stone Age, out of the Stone Age, and brought them into the actual era they were living in, educated everyone, and gave them all the rights of Spanish citizenry. This is incredible. Nobody did anything like that before. So what Spain did for these people was great. But I'll tell you something. Since theology of liberation, especially the last 60 years or so, has come into vogue, theology of liberation has spread the lie about colonization, and the colonizers were horrible people. Colonization, by the way, the word comes from Colon, which is Christopher Columbus. So when they're talking about the colonization of America, they're talking about the Columbusization, what Columbus brought. Colon in Spanish, right? Anyway, they spread an awful lot of lies and propaganda. That said, that an American could be received and accepted by the local clergy in Peru, and that not only was he accepted, he became their bishop. This is an American becoming a bishop for Peruvians in Peru, and was accepted by them, and for the most part, beloved by them. That is quite an accomplishment. Nobody's going to take that away from him. That in itself is a tremendous accomplishment. I mean that. My respects. That's incredible. To be respected and to be able to hold your own with the local clergy. That's a big deal. And that means to me, it says to me that he's a man who's capable of speaking and listening to all sorts of opinions while maintaining the truth. It's going to be an interesting pontificate, I think. I really believe that. And I'm looking forward to it, as I'm sure you are. You've met him. Why don't you tell us something about him?
Well, I met him last October after a press conference. I'm sorry, we have just a bit of feedback. Okay. Father Murr.
Yes.
Hi. Okay. And he said that he had read my letters, which I sent to about 20,000 people. And of course, in those letters, I've talked at great length about the position of, and included the comments of Archbishop Vigano. And I'm sure he's also read those letters. And I haven't met him since he became Pope. And I have been following what he's done. And I think you have given a positive judgment on these just about 33 days, Father, 8th of May to 11th of June. This would be the equivalent of the pontificate of John Paul I. And
yes, it's exactly the pontificate of John Paul I, right?
And he's acting on a number of fronts. He's made a number of appointments. He's had a number of program setting addresses. He just had the nuncios in Rome, and tomorrow He and he's given another address to them about the work of the church through its ambassadors around the world. So what I detect, first of all, in these days, a resetting of the course from a ship that had been in some ways slightly becalmed with the sails flapping in one direction or another, to a ship at least starting on a course that may require some tacking, but has the sails underway, swelling with the wind here. And in each area, he had all of the Vatican together the other day for the Holy See, the Jubilee of the Holy See. So because his pontificate coincides with this Jubilee going on for 2025 in Rome, a number of the things were already planned for him. He stepped in, as it were, into a year of Jubilee where he had pre-programmed audiences with all sorts of different groups. He had the new communities, so-called new movements, last weekend. So in a sense, day by day, week by week, for 4 weeks now and a few days, he's been assessing and speaking about the entire 360-degree circle of the issues facing the Pope and the Church today. And in each of these cases, I think what he's been doing is to say, we're going to find a way to have a certain calm direction. And where there's a need to inspire and to rededicate ourselves to doctrine or to diplomacy or to liturgical questions, I think what he's suggesting is he's willing to look at the issues and try to find a suitable way to give a Catholic teaching that will be constant and steady. I think that's the first point that I detect in the pontificate, that he wants an orderly process. Now, people aren't sure on some of the most controversial questions yet. And among those is synodality. And he has a couple of times said he is continuing the synodal process. And I try to interpret him in my view. He's going to try to define it in a way that could be more acceptable, rather than distance himself and deny what Pope Francis launched. He will simply transform what was in Pope Francis's pontificate, a kind of closed synodality, partially open to the left, we might say, to the more progressive, and unheeding of the more traditional voices. And perhaps what his plan would be to give a 360-degree synodality, which I think might be fairer and more traditional than what has been going on in the past 2 or 3 synods. How does that strike you?
Yes, that's interesting. It's interesting. I too noted that. And somebody was, well, not somebody, some bodies, a lot of people were very concerned about that because, well, first of all, Robert, to be perfectly frank, I, for one, can't tell you what synodality is.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for a definition, a working definition. I understand what I see what it's becoming, but it's the first time in a long time that I remember being invited to participate, at least as an observer, in something without knowing what it is, without a definition of what it was. Now, what they were concerned about was that Francis led these things with I think it's obvious to say, a complete bias. He eliminated a lot of people who should have been there, and he had the people he wanted there. That is not, that's called rigging a system. It just is. Now, if the present Pope, if Pope Leo, wants to have a synod or synodality, a synodality way, if he includes everybody, I'd have nothing against that. If he includes everyone, if he includes all points of views that are represented in the Catholic Church as well as can be done, I have no problem with that. It would be a very good thing for our bishops and our cardinals and our theologians to start listening to lay people, but all lay people on all points of the spectrum, not just those on the leaning toward the left, also to the right, the traditional Catholic, the conservative Catholic. We have not been represented in any of these things. So I think if the Holy Father is in making that invitation to an open one, an honest one, that would be great. I think that would be great. I think it would be very, 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 very good for the church that points of view be spoken about openly and honestly and put on the table. I think that's great.
Okay, so the second question becomes a complex net of questions having to do with being an American, having to do from coming from Chicago, having to do with the smile of Cardinal of Chicago, whose name will not be mentioned, but who I also talked to on the street in Rome alongside the new Cardinal of Washington, and both of them
lucky you. How were they?
Well, they were both saying that they felt that they would elect before the conclave voted, whether they were still able to go out. And then again, I saw them at the press conference at the North American College. They were all there, and they felt very much. They used the word that it was a grace, and it was the feeling of unity, and it was a feeling that the Holy Spirit had given a kind of marvelous sense that they had chosen the man who put together all of the characteristics that they had on their checklist, a man who would pull the church together, a man who would remain faithful to our faith and tradition, a man who would listen to advice from a circle of well-trained people. This was the thing that the bishops and that the cardinals said at the press conference, and their sense of feeling peaceful and contented was very tangible. So somehow they're happy, and what they're happy about is what we will have to judge and consider in the months to come. But right. We do have to consider the overarching question of our church in this modern world, and then the entire trajectory from the Second Vatican Council until now, which is in this last pontificate opened us up to a kind of horizontal vision of the church, one faith among many, as all faiths are a path to God. This type of almost humanistic vision of the church, spurred obviously by the sense, at least in part, a sense of a desire to be able to speak with everyone, to be able to engage everyone, and so not to begin by saying you have nothing to tell us and we have everything to tell you. I'm trying to construe it.
Robert, let me interject a question right there. That's you're making a very good point. Could you tell me when that existed in the church? In other words, did that ever exist? That, for example, I, as a Catholic priest, or you as a Catholic layman, would say to a Buddhist, "You have nothing to tell me"? Would we ever have done that? When would we have done that? I don't know anybody who would do that. We were always open to dialogue with these people, and we were open to dialoguing with them so that we could convert souls to Christ. This is the whole idea, for the good of their salvation and for our own. What bothered me most of all during this last pontificate, especially, we were not to convert anybody. We were just to accept everybody as one of many opinions, and ours is just one of many opinions also. That's absolutely unacceptable. Ours is not one of many opinions. Ours is the true opinion. It is the truth. It is following Jesus Christ, who said, there is not but one way to the Father, and I am it. That's what he said. Those are his words, not mine. I'm the way, the life, the truth. Who wants to get to the Father comes to the Father through me. Period. He didn't say through all nice people in the world, or people who hold a philosophy with A, B, and C as principles. This is very dangerous terrain to me. But my question to you was this: I don't ever remember the church not talking to people. When did we not talk to people? Before the council? I was alive during the council. There was plenty of talk to people, ecumenical talk before the council. People were always looking at a way. Your neighbors, for goodness sake, in the American experience of things, our neighbors were Jews. They were Protestants. They were of different religions. We all got together. Nobody hated each other. I mean, I never heard of anything like that. So I don't understand where they're drawing this mark, this new mark that we have to get along with it. We always did. We always did. What I see that's changed is our attitude towards salvation. When I go back to this, we've talked about it many times on this program and before. When I believe a Comboniano priest from the Amazon appeared in Rome, and he announced that he had been working as a missionary for 40 years in the Amazon, and his proudest moment was right now, where he could say he never baptized one single person. He was proud of that. This is outrageous. And if this is where it's leading, I want none of it.
I met that bishop. I met him again in the press conference where he made that remark.
Good Lord.
2019. That was the time of the Pachamama presence in the church on the Via della Conciliazione, brought into the Vatican Gardens and brought into St. Peter's Basilica. So this was a crossroads. This is this issue that you've just referred to again, not baptizing anybody in an entire year, entire 40 years of being a missionary.
And being proud of it.
Right.
And proud of it.
I mean, either there's something going on behind this man's mind, or deep in his, or else he doesn't have the Catholic faith.
But it's not just this man, Robert. It is a whole movement. You would find that as a prevalent opinion in theologians of liberation, as they would call themselves. They're not interested in promulgating the faith. That's not what's important. Social justice is.
Okay, so we're on to the real issue that is through the entire modern period. It's through the entire 60 years since Vatican II. It was through the pontificate also of Benedict, and also throughout the pontificate of Francis. And I have to say, this man, Pope Leo XIV, has to face this as well. A man who was a missionary himself, who had to baptize people, and did. And yet there's a very powerful belief in the liberation theologian mindset, which is powerful in the Jesuit order and in many orders in the church, that bringing Christ and faith in Jesus Christ and baptism and the sacraments and the church structure is of much less importance than bringing running water and a life that's no longer as difficult and primitive and unjust. This is at least the impression I receive.
Again, I agree with you. I hear what you're saying. When did that not exist? I don't know. I know many missionaries. When I was a kid, the missionaries, my father supported several Jesuit missions, especially one with a Father Tracy, who was a classmate of his in South America, I believe in Peru. Wherever the missionary went, he brought the idea of fresh water, of digging a well, of starting a clinic. This went hand in hand with this always. Nobody just walked in with the gospel and said, we need to baptize you before you die of starvation. That was never the way things were. It's being presented incorrectly, and it's being presented incorrectly for a reason. And that reason is to give impetus to the social and to negate the spiritual. I believe that.
Okay.
We never, all of our sisters, our priests, our brothers who went into the missions everywhere in the world brought all sorts of progress with them. They brought money from the countries they came from to be able to invest in people in those new missions, to build, and every place there was a clinic immediately. There was fresh water immediately. It was what they brought. They brought civilization and education. So there's something going on here. It's something is going on.
Okay, I think there is something going on, and I think it's probably the central question, and that is keeping the appearance of charity but eliminating the centrality of Christ, which is a type of secular humanism motivated by a desire for human betterment, but forgetful of everything to do with the transcendent, everything to do with the eternal, everything to do with sin, repentance, absolution. And somehow it is the greatest danger we face because it's so seductive in some ways.
It is seductive in some ways, but I would say to those, and I would say it openly, and I have said it openly to priests and nuns especially, who would espouse that approach, will get out of religious life and become social justice warriors. Go change this world all over the place by digging wells and by starting clinics and everything else, void of Christ. But they can't, because they use the pulpit, they use their office as an entryway to then subvert it. It's really, I see a lot of it, and I saw a lot of it in Mexico. I saw a lot of it in different parts of South, and I knew of it in South America. It's really divisive, and it's awfully hateful. Some of these people actually hate that the church has sacraments, hate that the church has a sacramental life. It's amazing. Those are some of the problems that this Pope has to address. This is not going to be an easy pontificate, but I'm hoping and praying that we've got the right man for it. I really mean that.
So we started out by saying that we were guardedly hopeful and that there was a direction of organization and reduction of confusion following the pontificate that just ended. And then we talked about this question of Christocentric Catholic faith, which is our faith, and humanistic, secular human betterment, which is always a temptation. You've solved that by saying, keep the faith and always try to be, to bring as much food, clothing, shelter into the world as possible, but always pointing it in the direction of eternity, in the direction of Christ and his mission to overcome the fall of man by his passion, death, and resurrection.
Very well put. Very well put. That's very well put. Yes.
So then he's got a lot of issues of the church's place in the world. He's even talking about making the Vatican a venue for peace talks in Ukraine. He's talked with Putin now on the phone. Apparently, Putin made the call, placed the call, just a few days ago. And then the same day, the Pope spoke also with Trump once again. And he's got his diplomats in Rome right now. They're there for several days. They met the Pope yesterday. The church brings a different type of diplomacy. People in ordinary diplomacy are dealing with economic issues, territorial issues, military issues. The Pope brings a spiritual dimension to it. I believe that's essential. What do you think
So do
the
I.
Pope could do? Why do you think that?
Well, because first of all, it's his role. First of all, that's what he's supposed to be about. He's supposed to be about the spiritual, not so much the temporal. When they overlap or intersect, wonderful. But it's principally that, because no one else seems very concerned about the spiritual. Certainly the Pope seems the man most apt for such an office and to address such questions. The spiritual side of the church is about the salvation of human beings, the salvation of man, the complete man. And we want to do it completely, and we want that salvation to be coming through in terms of peace. We want peace in the world. We want peace in the world because Christ was a man of peace. Other countries in the world want peace in the world for socioeconomic reasons. And some people, this is the most incredible thing, including the United States of America, I'm sorry to say, in different occasions, have wanted war, have wanted the antithesis of peace, war, for socioeconomic reasons, right? So when we have the Pope who's inviting warring sides to come and sit at the table of peace, he's inviting them to a spiritual reunion that is going to take into account everything else. I'm sure they're going to look at social issues. They're going to look at economic issues. They're going to look at humanitarian issues. They'll look at everything. But primarily, he's doing it as Christ's representative on earth. And because Christ wants peace. He wants peace in this world. And the devil does not. Therefore, it's the Pope's, that's his mission, to call these people together and let them work out all sorts of different issues. Wonderful. Wonderful. That's great. But above all, he wants a spiritual peace. You know, I got that impression when I heard President Trump say quite a few weeks ago, there was this obnoxious reporter with Trump derangement syndrome who asked a question that was an insulting question. And rather than take the bait, President Trump said, the question was, what do you want for these people? And Trump turned around and said, I want people to stop dying. That's what I want. I want people to stop killing people. I want people to stop dying. Well, that's spiritual. That to me is spiritual. He didn't say, I want them to stop dying because they're not getting paid a decent wage and this, or because there isn't fresh water. No. I want them to stop dying, period. Because their lives are worth something. That is a Christian message, right off. And it was beautiful to hear him say it. I think he and the Pope are going to be on the same page in the same book. I really do believe that.
That's beautifully put, and I agree with you. And we do have a pilgrimage coming up with you. And during this program, we wanted to have a brief video about what we do when we come to see you in not far from Seville, on a little we call it a guest, a hacienda. What do you have there, Father?
I call it hacienda. We call it Hacienda Montecristo.
The hacienda.
And why do we call it that? Because that's its name. Yeah, it's well, I'm not getting into the whole reason for it, but it is a place for priests, especially, who are troubled in any way, whether they have problems with their bishops, which are an enormous amount of priests today, canonical problems, difficulties in any area are invited here, and we try to figure out a way to cope with life and to continue on with it. So it's a kind of a center for priests.
Okay, and yet you do receive us as pilgrims. I wonder.
I receive everybody. This is what I'm telling you about. We had a small group of Buddhists the other day. Do you think I didn't receive them? Of course I did. We had some Muslims come. Did I not receive? Of course I received them. But we've always done this. This is my whole point. This is not something new, but we've done it, and I've done it. I've done it as a Catholic priest, and they're all any place in the house. You can always see a crucifix. You can see Our Lady of Guadalupe. You can see a religious. They know where they are, and they know who they're speaking to. And I pull no punches. You know me. So, but yeah, my primary concern is bringing Christ into the world. And we do it. We try to do it in this house. So now in October we're having a retreat.
Yes.
And you are organizing the retreat. Inside the Vatican is organizing the retreat. Okay. And what we do in that retreat is, unfortunately, the retreat is for about 25 people. I don't have room yet for 25 people. So right up the road from us, still in Seville, we're all in Seville. Just up the road from us is a little town by the name of Carmona. Beautiful little town. I think you would agree, right, Robert? You've been there.
Yes.
And some Dominican sisters have a fantastic convent with 3 major, and 2 of them are Baroque chapels. Beautiful place. And what we do is the retreatants take a place there. They take their room there. And from there, every morning we have 2 talks that I give and Mass. And after that, you and Deborah and the crew that you've got with you take everybody out touring. One day they go to Granada, another day to Cordoba, another day to Ronda. And every night they come back to the same place. So you're not carrying suitcases around, right? And then we wake up the next day, we start the same program again. It's the mixture of the spiritual, which is in the morning with the secular, and the secular is mostly spiritual also, because all of the churches that you're seeing are Catholic churches, even the mosques converted into churches. There's a spirituality about Spain that's unique to Spain and to Spanish culture. The Catholicism has permeated the Spanish world, and it's everywhere. So it's a week of that, and at the end, we usually end up with a sort of a paella fest here at Monte Cristo in the evening, with music, with guitars, and a good time as a farewell dinner and get together. But I think it's really kind of a unique retreat. It's unique in the way it's set up, and the people that have gone on the retreats so far, Robert, they've been marvelous. Usually in the retreat, I'll give you my experience. And I've given retreats to priests, to nuns, and to lay people all my life. Almost invariably, in every retreat, you're going to find a naysayer, somebody negative, somebody complaining. This isn't right. The water isn't hot enough. But you've never had one of those people on the retreats that you brought here. They've all been just really beautiful people, cooperative in every sense of the word, and they form almost a real esprit de corps. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And everyone I've noticed seems happy. This is also good. I enjoy that much.
Well, your happiness is infectious.
Well, yeah, but they're good and happy people already. They are.
So through this, I do think you've built up, 40 or 50 of the pilgrims in these first 2 that we did, and the next ones will have a kind of Murr circle, or the Murr.
Poor people.
Those Murr pilgrims, who will remain in touch, and over time, maybe we'll get an official knighthood. I think you'll have to be.
Yes, or something with the garter, right?
Yeah. So, Father Murr, we'll go back now to. I would say on this Pope, I have several thoughts that I haven't expressed, and
Please express
among
them.
them,
I want to hear them. I want to hear them.
well, I do think the whole concept of the division in the church, particularly with orthodoxy, the Pope would like to take steps toward healing it. The very first person that he received was Cardinal, no, mistake, White, Patriarch, Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew of Constantinople. And I actually met him myself while he was here in Rome. And it's significant that that was the first meeting. This is our brother or sister church. This is the other lung of our church. And they too have had terrific problems over the generations. And we divided in 1054 at the Great Schism. So the first point I always make, we were together 1,000 years. Yes. We didn't divide for 1,000. Yeah, and we have, all of us share the great fathers. We consider John Chrysostom and Athanasius, both from the East, both who spoke Greek. They are fundamental pillars for the Orthodox, and so also for us.
Absolutely.
So the fact that we've been separated now for 970 years, since 1054, is a tragedy. And John Paul II said that. It goes against the last prayer of Christ, who at the Last Supper, John describes this in chapter 17 of his gospel. Jesus lifted his eyes to the Father and said, I pray, Father, that they may all be one, ut unum sint. And therefore, whenever I think of keeping the church together and one and united, one holy, Catholic, and apostolic, I think the first step has to be the Orthodox. And when we actually believe their sacraments are all valid, we actually believe they're Eucharistic. Yes. So what is impeding us from taking the final step? And maybe you could reflect.
There are some theological issues. I don't think any one of them is insurmountable. I think they're all you could tackle and arrive at an answer, a consensus for each problem. They're not impossible problems. I think with some goodwill and sitting down and a little bit of give and take on each side, without compromising the faith, we can come to those conclusions. I'll tell you something else that would be a big help toward that ecumenism. Now, this is going to sound rather strange, but I don't think it is ultimately. The return of the traditional Latin Mass, that it be permitted again in the Roman Catholic Church, that is very important. Why is that important? Because the Orthodox, whether they be Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, Serbian Orthodox, Croatian Orthodox, any Orthodox group in the world would recognize our tradition in the Latin Mass. They would not recognize it in a balloon Mass or a hullabaloo Mass or an acrobatic Mass or a motorcycle Mass or a dancing Mass. That's completely out of their range. But if we had again established the traditional Latin Mass, just as an option, just as it was before, as Pope Benedict had established it before Francis put his 2 cents into the argument, that would be much more attractive to the Orthodox. That would show our stability. It would be very important for us. Look, just getting to this, I know it's a little bit off topic, but I would say
no, not at all. This is right on topic.
Okay, I would like to see in this pontificate a couple things, and I think I'm not just speaking for me. I'm speaking for thousands of people. Literally thousands of people have talked to me. I'll bet 3,000 people since the death of Pope Francis. By phone, but on email. It's just incredible. I don't know how in the world they're considering me a leader in some sort of movement. I'm as confused as most people. But people are looking for answers, and everybody is praying for the return of the Tridentine Latin Mass, just as it was before. Now, I would offer a couple other things. I would like to see the Vatican. I invite the Holy Father, because if he's listening or paying any attention to this program, I certainly would invite him to please straighten out the situation with the church in China and the concord that the Vatican has with China. This is not right. Something is very wrong here. And people know it, and people are complaining all about it because it's not Catholic, it's not Christian what's going on. Many people in China feel betrayed. Hundreds of thousands of people have given their life to the true church and to the true faith in Jesus Christ during the years in China. The Chinese have suffered tremendously to hold on to the Catholic faith, and all of a sudden it seems like it's up for sale. This has left a bad taste in everyone's mouth, and that it is not transparent, and that it is not honestly put forth. What are the conditions? What's happening here? You're talking about. We've been talking about the role of the laity, that the clergy stop being so highfalutin and so secretive and this and that. Well, tell us what's going on here? What's going on here? The Chinese Vatican situation has to be done. The Latin Mass, the Tridentine Latin Mass, has to be given permission to be said again. It's being said all over the place. And the problem is that if it's not united with the Catholic Church, it's going to divide from the Catholic Church. That's what I'm afraid of. I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see, and there's no reason that it happen. You know, one last thing that I'd like to see, just this is my own preference. I would love to see the opening of the cause for canonization for George Pell, for Cardinal George Pell. I would love to see his cause for canonization open. That's just a private thing. He was so poorly treated by the church and by the Australian government, by liberal forces. It's unbelievable what that man endured to serve Jesus Christ. Yeah. And he serves as a great witness and a great martyr for us today. Those are my concerns. And I think and I know they're shared by many, many, many people.
Okay. On the concern about the old liturgy, what you've given it is a turn in a positive direction. Everyone has been saying, give us back something so we can go back. And you're saying, give us something so we can go forward.
There you go.
The great goal of returning to communion with our Orthodox brothers and sisters, whose liturgy is very beautiful, and the Byzantine liturgy, which is celebrated by the Greek Catholics, the Eastern Rite Catholics, and that liturgy has so many common points with the Tridentine liturgy that when the Eastern Rite and the Orthodox world looks at our liturgy today in its worst form, the balloon mass or
they're repulsed. It repulses them.
They sense that there's no more reverence, there's no more real belief in an awesome and holy God. It's somehow gone, and who would want to reunite with such a church? So
that's exactly the point. That's exactly the point.
So it's a wonderful point, and it's a positive, and I think somehow it can be communicated to Pope Leo as an argument in this, and I think he may already sense that, because although I'd hate to be proven wrong tomorrow morning, but he certainly has he's not.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yep.
Well, because in the Vatican, things are unpredictable, but there's a sense in which he has used Latin already from the first days of his pontificate on several occasions. And he sang Laetare
Regina Caeli.
Regina Caeli, laetare. He said that, sang that. It was the first time a pope had sung like that in decades. I don't know if
let me just make a quick parenthesis, Robert, in what you're saying, which is beautiful. I don't think most people know this. When there is a pontifical mass, that is a mass presided by the Pope of Rome, the gospel is also read in Greek. The gospel is read in Latin, and it is read immediately afterwards, the same gospel, in Greek, to show the universality of the church, right? So this point for this Pope, the unity of Christianity, is very important. It's very important. And it's very important to all of us that we be united with our Orthodox brothers and sisters. And we can be. I'm telling you, we can be. And it would be marvelous. But it's not going to happen if we offer them, here, come and join us, and we'll show you how to do balloon masses and clown masses. And no, that is not going to work. It's not going to work at all, because these people do have a great, beautiful reverence and worship and awe for God. And it's shown in their liturgy. Unfortunately, we've lost that in great part.
And that would be a cultural statement, or let's say a countercultural statement, regarding secular humanistic world, which is now becoming woke and post-Christian. The reunion of the Orthodox with the Catholics who do prior
wouldn't that be fantastic? Just saying it, just when you just said it right now, Robert, honestly, it went right through me. It's fantastic to hear that. To hear that. So but to realize it would be out of this world. It'd be fantastic. Yeah,
we would say we're gathering the family, or in the terms that Michael Matt uses, we're gathering the clans. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to go quietly in this cultural war. We're going to gather from east to west to make a perfect offering. And the second point would be it would involve the Russians, who have Russian Orthodox faith in their tradition, and they would have to come to some new conception of their identity post-communist and we might say the post-communist period, which has now been 35 years since communism fell. And they would have to say, where do we really want to take our country? And in this, I also detect Our Lady of Fatima's message that her Immaculate Heart would
very good. Russia absolutely. And Pope, you've done a beautiful full circle, Robert. That's great. Yep.
All right. And therefore, this also then backs up your remarks about China, which refers to a diplomatic agreement, a concordat of sorts, but a secret one, approved in 2018 for 2 years only, but it's been renewed in 2020, in 2022, and in 2024. And what it really offers is a veto by the Chinese government, or even an imposition by the Chinese government of bishops in the Catholic Church, which is completely against the religious nature of the church, that a political power does not have any right whatsoever to organize and control the interior life of the Catholic Church. Therefore, for the freedom of the church, which is the thing I always have tried to work for and write for, this document has to be reviewed and either set aside or amended so that the church has freedom truly inside of China.
When I was a seminarian in 1975, while working my way toward priesthood in Rome, a man by the name of Generalissimo Francisco Franco was the head of the state in Spain. He had, as part of the concordat with the Catholic Church, that Spain, Franco, could veto a bishop that he saw unfit. For example, Rome could name the Bishop of Toledo, right? And if Franco decided that he was unfit, that he was a danger to society, that his views would be rather socialist rather than Catholic. Franco had the power to veto that. Well, there was such an outrage in Rome. How dare he? Who does he think he is? This, that, and the other thing. Well, they relinquished that. They relinquished that right. Okay. The communists now insist on it, and that's fine. We agree with that. Why? Why would we agree with that? Why would we agree to trust the communists in China and not Franco in Spain? Come on. I mean, the church needs her independence. And if this is some sort of an agreement, I would like to know, as a Catholic, I think I have the right to know, what are the conditions to that agreement? Enough with this. Enough with the secrecy. Enough with it. We need transparency.
Okay, and then I'll just we have just a couple minutes and we go. The Cardinal Pell, George Pell. He was in prison for over a year. Invented charges
Robert, in solitary confinement. Do you know what that does to a human being? Solitary confinement for a year? It's unbelievable what he went through. And for nothing. He was totally innocent. And the humiliation and everything else. And when he was finished, went back to the Vatican, had lost his job. Right. That's done. No.
Yes, I knew him. I saw a video on the internet of his interrogation by the police officers, and his shock that he could be charged with such a crime was so evident. It was astonishment, and the suffering that he then experienced does seem to be a type of martyrdom.
Oh, it was indeed. It was indeed. But also it was like Mincenti. Cardinal Mincenti told a group of us that he would go through all of the humiliation that he went through in Hungary again, rather than the humiliation that he suffered at the hands of the Vatican.
Well, those are harsh words.
Oh, they're very harsh words.
I myself have tried to write about the Vatican and to write something called Inside the Vatican, attempting to explain things. But the real reason for having that name was always to try to evangelize the Vatican, in a sense, and to say the heart of the Vatican, inside the Vatican, is Christ. And you're here to carry on and to preach his gospel, his resurrection, his forgiveness. And anything else that interferes with that is of the devil.
You got it. You've got it. You've got it.
All right, Father.
Robert, I can't believe that an hour has passed. A delightful hour. I haven't seen you for a while. I miss you, my friend.
Well, everyone wants to know that you had a little, you went to the checkup on your health and you were given a clean bill of health.
They said yes first, and then they called me back and put me in the hospital for several days and put 2 stents in my heart, in the valves. So now it's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. Breathing better, thinking better, feeling better. So it's good. It's good.
Wonderful. But Father, just a quick, could you give us your blessing?
Absolutely. Benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, descendet super vos et manet semper. Amen. Thank you, Robert. See you next week.
Yes.
God willing.
Come with us on a unique pilgrimage and retreat to renew your spirit. Experience the beauty and richness of southern Spain. Our retreat master, Father Charles T. Murr, a renowned Catholic priest, best-selling author, philosopher, theologian, trained psychologist, and pastor of souls. Father Murr will guide us through 3 mornings of spiritual reflections at a convent located in the historic heart of Carmona, Spain, promising a transformative journey. Experience an intimate evening with Father Murr at his home. Wine, dinner, music, and conversation, a highlight of this unique experience. Explore picturesque towns in Andalusia, each with its own history and charm. From the ancient streets of Carmona to the majestic beauty of Cordoba, the breathtaking views of Ronda, the remarkable village of Centennial, and the historic wonders of Seville. Our pilgrimage will be filled with awe-inspiring moments. Join us on this profound spiritual journey and rediscover the joy of faith, fellowship, and renewal. Book your place now and embark on a pilgrimage and retreat unlike any other.